Okay. Uh, I don't know if Marco said he could join us or not. He said maybe, but maybe not. I know he had some kids to take care of today. I'm so glad to see everybody. And what I was hoping for is we could do some clean language. And I wanted to start with a clean start. We've called this movement and momentum in the imaginal underground.
Wow.
I want to give everyone a chance to riff on that. And I'm going to start with this, liminality. There are two definitions I found. One, relating to a transitional or initial stage of a process. Second, occupying a position at or on both sides of a boundary or threshold. And then I wanted to thinking about imaginal experience. Imaginal experiences create a desired future image of oneself, one's best possible self. The idea is to make the best possible self tangible enough to encourage actions to make that future self come true. So I think that resonates with me because I do think the imaginal has so much to do with our futures. So if anyone has a different formulation, that's cool. I'd like to hear about it. So I would just like to have a clean start. Where would you like to start, Seth? Shall we start with you?
Sure. Well, first I want to say hello, Doug. My name is Seth. It's nice to meet you.
I'm sorry I didn't introduce you guys.
It's okay.
Hello, Seth. It's a pleasure.
Cool. So,
and I'll make a quick note that I do have lots of activity going on in the household right now, so I'll put myself on mute. If I'm able to talk, I'll join in. Glad to be here. And
by the way, thank you, Doug. By the way, Doug set this up for us. I appreciate that. And also, Doug has seen the previous discussion between Michael, Seth, and myself. So, and I appreciate your feedback on that, Doug, just to let you know. So we all sort of, even though Doug wasn't here in that conversation the last time, he participated indirectly in it. So thanks.
Cool.
It's all yours, Seth. Where would you like to start?
Right here. I don't know. I don't know. I don't have any opening remarks coming to mind. Happy to be here. Ready to rock.
Okay, great. Michael, where would you like to start?
That the imaginal and the liminal is my open practice. Everything else is just elemental. Whether I'm doing loving kindness, getting angry, or whatever, I'm always working with the liminal into the imagination, and the imagination in the liminal space and out of the liminal space. Therefore, my sense of self is always in a way in transition and being open to, I guess the best metaphor, to dance with that. Although sometimes it feels like a wrestling match.
And in and out of liminal space, the self in transition, and to dance with that. And wrestle, you said? And
yeah,
wrestle.
Sometimes it's a wrestling match, it's not a dancing.
Thank you. Doug, where would you like to start?
So you mentioned the future self. I've been interested in the present self. I've been reading Henri Bergson and trying to grapple with his idea of duration. present, it's the collection of the past into the present as a continual process. Trying to relate that with my life, with children, but they're naturally in that state, and we would kind of go out of that state, and we want to develop or divide time and to be in a certain zone, which I think we enter into when we use clean language. We kind of enter into a space that's outside of divided time. We're right here and developing these metaphors. So that's something I thought about this morning, and how I could explain all this type of stuff to my children is very important to me, because if I can't, I think there's something on Reddit. I don't know if anybody uses Reddit here, but like, explain it to me like I'm 5.
Nice.
Little thread. So any big complex thought, if they can explain it to you like you're a 5-year-old, then you know you've simplified it enough to where it's useful, I suppose, for everyday life. So that's where I'm at. Say hello to. Want to say hello? This is Miles and Vincent.
Hi, Miles, and what was the other name?
Vincent is waiting. Is the younger boy. Miles is 6.
Oh my God, they're beautiful. Well, I'm under
Maybe
the.
we can have a first child clean language session.
I'm trying to listen with my third ear. I'm having trouble with the technology today. It's coming and going. I do want to think about a few things though, and I'm really under the spell of a book that, well, several books right now, but one of them is by this guy named Yeshua Ben Aaron. He's writing a book. He's written a book called Cognitive Yoga. I just want to quote something from him. I hope we could just to give us some sort of orientation, some kind of framework. I'm really happy if anyone else wants to frame this in a different way. But he's a student of Rudolf Steiner, who, as we all know, is a great pioneer in this field of interiors and working with the etheric and the subtle. And he said something I thought that was very provocative. And since all of you are practitioners, I think this would be a good space for me to deliver this and sort of get some feedback from you. I want to have some lucid feedback to offer you guys as well. And maybe we then can riff a little bit and then maybe do some clean language to do some actual modeling. Maybe we'll have some desired outcomes that will emerge spontaneously, or maybe we'll just have a problem that we want to consider, or, you know, or maybe a potential solution already arises. Whatever it is, we can work with it. So this is a quotation. He's talking about the etheric Christ. And he has an agenda. But he makes this comment, I think, about our contemporary world that I think is of use to us. He says, this progress, the etheric Christ, is endangered from many sides today, and prominent among them is the practice of technological singularity. In the course of this century, countless human bodies and souls will be merged with an infinitely seductive and powerful artificial intelligence and virtual reality. This technology will bind them to a subnatural and inhuman world, which they will experience more and more, not only as a fantastic means of entertainment, but also as the magical redemption and healing of all human suffering and mentality. This subnatural and inhuman world lies, morally speaking, one level below the natural and human physical world. However, we can, through the practice of cognitive yoga, consciously rise one level above the physical world to the nearest super sensible world, the etheric. And in this etheric world alone can our hearts, minds, and deeds be healed and resurrected. And only there is the deepest forces of our human becoming can we find the life-giving source of the earth and humanity in the 21st century. So this is a very big topic that he's developing in this book. And he gives a lot of exercises that I think are useful. And one of them I might share with you. But I'm just like, want to open up some space around this. And because we're all living in very troubled times. And what I'm frustrated by, I hear a lot of very brilliant people and who are, you know, having very generative conversations. I find so much of it is exterior, you know, external. It's about biology, or it's about society as and technological fixes that are required. And I find all that very necessary. But I also miss something that I hope we can, maybe we can work with today in our get-together, this gathering, where we are more tuned into these very subtle capacities that we all have, but that are often labeled and dismissed by the sort of current paradigm. And also, there's the virtual that we're dealing with as well, that tends to dominate, so that these more subtle interior kinds of inquiry isn't really brought into a public space. So anyway, that's my mission in life, and that's probably what I'm hoping to do here today, is to offer that to us as a possibility. So if there's anything anyone wants to riff after that, I would love to hear it. And we can maybe have some desired outcomes if they emerge. That would be great. Or other issues.
You want to go, Seth?
It's an open frame. Anyone can go wherever they want with this.
You want to go first, Seth?
I don't know. I still feel in sort of a marinating mode. I'm not having a lot of words arise to
Fair
fire
enough.
back at the moment.
Fair enough. Just attuning to what John was saying, there's so much of it that is spot on as far as your observations and your desires, John. The thing is that I feel that this next step up, and maybe that cognitive yoga is very important, is how well do we use the senses we have to notice the subtleties in our environment, so that we can, because I'm very sensitive of trying to jump too fast, because I know that exists, the ethereal exists. I'm not denying it. But I think maybe where I'm coming from, to agree with you, but what I see is people trying to jump past what they actually already have. You know, that right now I'm embodied, I'm speaking across a virtual reality that there's overlap to the ethereal, you know, because in the sense that I'm using ethereal, that it's just beyond a physical sensation, if that makes sense. But it's still real, you know, it's still there. So I'm using what skills I know, paying attention, being attentive when I'm out in nature, walking, like I had to wear my mask when I'm around the people, the cold on my skin, the sounds around me, the acoustic environment that I'm moving in, that doesn't just, it's not about just sound. It's a Marshall McLuhan thing. It's not about sound. It's about, you know, images coming in, how the senses are being used to both inhabit and manifest at the same time. Inhabit and manifest. And so I better shut up. That's enough.
That was great.
In the etheric. And since Seth, you know clean language really well, I'm listening for motifs and themes and possibilities. And Michael just gave us a whole list of things that we could easily develop. I'm thinking about the etheric. And when etheric, is there anything else about etheric? But it could go in a number of different directions. So we have a sort of a decision tree. You know, it could go this way, it could go that way, it could go this way. And so I would be open to any clean language questions that pop up for you, Seth, as you listen to Michael or Doug. I think that would be great. And we can just take it from there.
Cool. Yeah, well, the thing that I resonated with the most with what you just said, Michael, was at the end you said inhabit and manifest, and then you said it again. And it really kind of got something vibrating in me also. So those are the things I'm most interested in asking questions about and unpacking.
And where did that resonate, Seth? Inhabit and manifest. When Michael said inhabit and manifest and resonated with you, whereabouts resonate?
Well, it was definitely like a bell happening above my solar plexus and then kind of exhaling, inhabiting and manifesting for me.
Thank you. And Doug.
Yes, Jim.
What would you like to have happen?
I would like to relay a message that looks like Marco just posted. He's unable to attend, but he mentioned, I'm not able to look directly at it, so if somebody's in front of the computer, you can perhaps read it. But
I can read it later.
he'd like to hear about that dream. He said he'd like to hear about the dream you had about Marco.
Yeah, well, I'll do that some other time. I don't feel like doing it right now. So is there anything else, Doug?
But going, I like Michael's response to what you said. And like Seth, I did pick up on the inhabit and manifest. It's been repeated. And something you said, John, about the external conversations versus going, I don't think you said internal, but you said subtle, having the more, I think you said subtle.
I think I did.
Having those conversations and recognizing those as the important conversations or that which needs to be had. But I'm coming from that space as well. Perhaps I often do. Perhaps we often do. That's the whole point of our mission. You called it your mission in life, to kind of tap into that a bit more frequently. That's what's coming through for me right now.
Thank you. That's great. So maybe I'll just start off with this little exercise. I'm adapting this from Ben Sharon. What's his name? Ben Arun. So can you hear this?
Very clearly.
Okay, very good. So let's just do a little exercise. This is the outer sound. Hear a bell. Seth. When hear a bell, whereabouts is that?
Well, it was here, it seemed. But the fact that you said outer sound then made me focus on a different location for it, as if it was also rooted.
Okay. So this is the outer sound.
Yeah.
Now this is a little bit of a quandary, because then I asked you to hear a bell.
Hmm.
But if I said hear an inner bell, I would have told you where it was, which would defeat the whole purpose of asking a clean question, right? Or how can you do that? So
Well,
but I think what we're doing here right now in just this is negotiating the etheric, the subtle, the virtual,
mhm.
and the physical, and the inner and the outer. Are we not?
Mhm. Mhm.
So it's a little, it is complicated, I grant you.
But that's interesting to me because it's very sort of participatory, and that's a very similar sense I got from what I felt like were those buzzwords that Michael said, because that has a very participatory sense to me of being in reality, or being here, you could say.
So I often say, I want to listen with my third ear. I had a dream figure, actually, John Gebser. I bumped into him in a lucid dream. And we were in this a shop. They were selling lighting equipment. And there was a young woman, two young women talking about the movie Inception. Remember that one? It's a movie about lucid dreaming. And here I was in this lucid dream, listening to these two women talk about Inception. And then down the stairs walked John Gebser, very dapper gentleman in a nice tweed suit. And he said, he did this. He said, you need to listen with your third ear. And then I woke up and I thought about that. And I'm still thinking about it. I'm thinking about it now, so much so that I've revisited this dreamscape. So with all of that, what would you like to have happen, Seth?
I would like development, of the miraculous.
Thank you. A development of the miraculous.
Mm-hmm.
And Michael, hear a bell.
Ding! Ding!
So you're externalizing it. So
Yeah,
that's
because it entered me and it needs to come out.
and it entered you and it needs to come out. So that's different. So when Michael hears the bell, he heard this one, and then when I asked him that question, he made that sound. And what was the statement you made? Something about it entered you and it had to come out. Okay.
There was to put it a little bit in more nuanced language, the image is when a drop of water goes into a pool, it ripples.
And a drop of water goes into a pool and it ripples. So we already have a metaphor there. And Doug, hear a bell. And when hear a bell, Is there anything else about that?
I think I heard with my third ear. There's overlapping meanings, especially as Seth and Michael share their experiences. And and you mentioned Gebser, and then my philosopher friend Bergson, who's been ringing in my ear, that this resonates with a lot of his concepts of where dividing. So I'm dividing time, dividing the sound, while at the same time I'm hearing it as one sound.
And you're dividing it and hearing it as one sound, and your philosopher friend Bergson. And whereabouts is Bergson?
So he's writing the wavelength, the sound waves as well. So he'll be right there, but at the same time he's flowing across as well. He doesn't want to stay in one spot. He's right here with me, but he's over. It's been 100 years since he's had his last physical thought, perhaps. But he lives in his books, in his writing, so that comes into the present, into the foreground.
And when Bergson is right here with you, does Bergson have a size or a shape?
Yeah, he was, at least according to a couple of the biographies I've read, he was a handsome man, a nice trim mustache and a large forehead. So he's in conversation with me, directly in front of me.
Directly in front of you.
His torso and head.
Thank you. So Doug is channeling Bergson, and I'm channeling a little bit of Gebser.
Well, we got 5 people on board here.
So I think we've already sort of accomplished a lucid sense perception. I think we are already creating feedback loops between the spiritual and the physical worlds through our participation here and through just asking a few clean language questions, which I really would welcome it, Seth, if you would, whenever you want to, ask them clean questions of me. That would be great. If you want to meta model me in this circumstance, I'd be thrilled. So I guess.
John, can I ask you then, right now?
Yes, please.
What would you like to have happen?
Well, after reviewing all of these, I've taken some notes and listening to all of these interior landscapes that are starting to be developed and maybe we're resonating with. I guess I have a list of things that I would like, but well, actually, I did have a dream about Marco, and in Marco, I had some fuzzy dreams, some fun hypnagogias, and I saw Marco appeared, from the shoulders up. I saw his face. He says, I believe in the world. It's funny because Michael looks like Jesus to me. He has a kind of Jesus, he looks kind of like Jesus. So I had this funny etheric Christ kind of vibe. So with all of that, I guess I want to explore. I'm searching for a desired outcome. I want to explore relational processes that make other relational processes possible. That's what a desired outcome for myself. I don't know necessarily that that's a desired outcome for the group, although that might happen. That would be great. I could certainly imagine there would be a relationship. One of the ways that we've worked before is, as I was the one who was modeling using clean language questions, and I've worked with Doug and with Michael many times. And I would ask, I would start with one person, and I would ask a few clean questions. Then I would ask that person to make a drawing. Then I'd go to another person, ask a few clean questions, ask them to make a drawing. And then I would go back to the person who's finished their drawing and work with their drawing. And when that other person comes with their drawing, we'll work with their drawing. And then we would do a kind of systemic orientation where we could look at each other's drawings and having developed those maps. And then we could find out, oh, I like that metaphor. And the other person might like another person's metaphor. So we had the beginnings of some sort of shared metaphors being in a group kind of environment. So that's how we've done it in the past. And I believe that now that you're able to join with me in co-modeling, I believe then you could be asking me questions of my map. So I could, it would be a different kind of role for me. But unlike where I'm like, this isn't like a training in doing clean language. That would be much too complex. But I do believe we can start using clean language, as Michael and Doug have many times before. And we're very facile. Both of them are very facile with their perceptual space and with using metaphors. I think this could be a very useful study for all of us.
Sure.
So I guess this is a provisional desired outcome. I want to explore relational processes that make other relational processes possible. So maybe, Seth, you could start with me. You could model that.
Yeah.
And ask me to draw a picture or whatever. I'll go draw a picture, and then you could start with Michael.
Cool.
Maybe Michael will have either a resource or a question or desired outcome. Ask him a few questions. He can start doing a map. And Doug, does that sound good to you? If we could just do a round like that, then Seth can do, or I can come back in with my drawing and then I could work with Doug, or I could work with you. It's sort of a, I think we're organizing as we go along. It's very improv theater.
That sounds cool.
Okay.
Yeah, we even could, one suggestion also is if when one person is being modeled, if anyone wants to ask a clean question or is like, oh, I'm curious, does that have size or shape or whatever, I would say anyone is invited to come in and ask.
That's fine with me. If you guys feel comfortable with that. I think you both pretty much have the idea of clean language. You know what the clean language questions are. We've gone over that. So feel free to do that. Yes. Does that sound good to you guys? Doug, is that okay?
Yeah, that sounds fine.
Okay. And also, like when Seth is working with me, you guys can take a meta perspective. So I would really invite you, maybe at the end of our call today, you could look at Seth and our interaction, and you could think about what you like, what you don't like, what you would like more of, and you could give us that feedback. That would be very useful. And we could do that for each other, Seth.
Cool. That sounds great.
So we can go to a meta, sort of a meta perspective for as a group. So I think that would be really creating that loop, that lucid perceptual loop between dimensions. I think that'd be cool.
Nice.
Okay.
Yeah. Well, with that, I would love to ask, so John, explore relational processes that make other relational processes possible.
Yeah. I want to explore.
And I want to explore. And when I want to explore in relational processes, what kind of relational processes are relational processes?
Well, what's coming up for me is telepathic relational processes, paranormal, relational processes that are sort of non-ordinary, but nevertheless can be very resilient and very robust, even if they are a little bit strange or unconventional.
And strange or unconventional, non-ordinary, and paranormal, and telepathic, and relational processes. And when telepathic, that's telepathic like what?
Well, it's very subtle. It's working with the subtle senses. It can come as a sound. It can come as a vibratory. Can come as like a gut response. It can be painful sometimes. It can be it has many different shapes and sizes. A little overwhelming sometimes.
And a little overwhelming sometimes. In many shapes and sizes, and sound, and gut, and vibratory, and subtle, and telepathic. And when telepathic, then what happens?
Well, it's sort of, I feel it right here. I'm touching my temples. I'm sort of massaging because it comes as not always very pleasant. Sometimes it comes as like a dark cloud, and I can really sense something, it could be hostile, it could be scary, it could be weird, but I'm very alert, and I do my best to adequately receive information, however way it comes. But it's not like it's always pleasant in these telepathic communiques occur. Sometimes I can tell when someone's in trouble or someone needs help, or someone's sometimes I need to warn people. I have had that experience of having to, I've had this dream, or I get this hunch, or I get this weird feeling, and I often have reported that responsibly to others, because I don't want to report everything I pick up on, because that's probably not, I have to sort of use my discrimination about what's coming from me and what's coming from someone else. But it's becoming a pressing issue for me now as we're in this pandemic, and I'm picking up on a lot of shit. A lot of shit. And it's very hard sometimes to discern where it's coming from and who does it belong to. But it's a very pragmatic question for me. how to integrate this information
Hmm.
in a way that's useful.
And how to integrate this information in a way that's useful and discern where it's coming from and adequately receive information. And when discern where it's coming from, is there anything else about discern?
Well, I'm getting a direct hit right on the top of my head. And it's sort of I'm seeing sort of like a golden bird up here.
Hmm.
It's it doesn't seem like it's not like a physical bird, but it draws upon memories of physical birds. So it has a symbolic quality to it, which is very different from, but similar to a physical kind of manifestation of a bird. But this is golden. It doesn't have the sense of a species. It seems much more of a generic kind of bird. But that is here, and then I can sense its presence in a sort of in a subtle form. Gives me a sense that there's an intelligence that's communicating with me, that I have a relationship to.
And have a relationship to. And explore relational processes. And an intelligence. And when relationship and intelligence. That's intelligence like what?
Well, it feels like a natural intelligence. It doesn't feel like it's an other than human or an other than animal. It doesn't feel like it feels like it's somewhere in between the human and other than human. Sort of like the bird kingdom. I feel like I'm a very, very good. I feel very connected with this, with the bird kingdom, and very tuned to birds. So, and I have a history of contact with birds. So I sense that this is somehow trying to come together in rather than pose the natural with the supernatural, or the normal with the paranormal, enter into a different kind of relationship that doesn't get, that's smooth and seamless rather than raw and jagged and bumpy.
And smooth and seamless. And in between human and other than human. And when smooth and seamless, and in between human and other than human, where is in between?
Well, it's like liquid gold. And I can feel it go through the left side of my body. A little bit on the right side, but it's definitely the left side of the body. It's very like fine, like a lattice of crystal, of like a liquid crystal. And it sometimes circulates right around my left nipple, right around the heart. Feels very kind of a ping. It also has a weird sensation as a male. I identify as a male. It has a feeling of being like I'm nursing a mother, like I'm nursing a baby. It's a very weird feeling, since I've never done that in this incarnation. But it's also a feeling of great. I guess it's just a strong connection with this desire to give and to nurture and to hold. And also it feels like it's not coming from me. It feels like it's coming from outside of me, inside of me, and then outside of me again. So it sort of comes in, it goes through me, and then it gets expressed. And it's a very heartfelt, heart-centered orientation, but it definitely radiates outward.
And radiates outward.
Yeah. And then it gets more subtle. It can get very intense, but then when it radiates outward, it gets extremely subtle. Almost where I can't even register it. And I don't know where it begins or it ends, or actually where it could come from.
And I don't know where it begins or it ends. And extremely subtle. And liquid gold. And nursing. And in between. And goes in and it comes out again. And when it goes in and comes out again, what happens to liquid gold?
It's coming, the liquid gold seems to be coming from the little claws of the bird, sort of hovering above my head in a subtle form, but I can feel the teeny tiniest, gentlest kind of prick. And it feels like it streams into the body. It's sort of, actually, it goes through here, then it sort of goes down this side, comes up here, and it's very amplified on this side. But some of it can go down and go into the root center and then come up on the right. But the right is much more, it isn't as intense on the right as it is on the left. The left is much more intense.
And the left is much more intense. And the right. And when the left is much more intense, what happens to the right?
Well, that's interesting. I'm so dominated by the right in most of my daily life. And these kind of experiences that are amplified on the left tend to happen at night. So I really feel like a right side daytime, a left side nighttime, and that they go back and forth, but they are in relationship, but the relationship could probably be improved. Because it can be disorienting when they're not working together. And I think that's where when it becomes disturbing, it's because there isn't enough communication between the left and the right.
And there isn't enough communication between the left and the right. And the relationship could probably be improved. And dominated by the right in daily life and left at night. And when there isn't enough communication, what kind of communication is that communication?
That's like a really ugly marriage. It's parents screaming and fighting and throwing plates at each other.
Hmm.
That's very ancient. That's very old.
Hmm. And very ancient. An ugly marriage, and fighting, and communication, and relationship could probably be improved. And when ugly marriage, very ancient, where does very ancient come from?
I think it's sort of way back there. It was way beyond my parents or my grandparents or their parents. It's very ancient. Sort of a very, very deep split between the masculine and feminine.
Hmm.
Probably goes all the way back to the Big Bang. I don't know. I haven't paid too much attention. I don't try to, and I also feel it's amplified by the outer culture, the culture wars that are, you know, I live in New York, so I'm surrounded by people yelling and screaming and demanding attention and trying to co-opt someone else's stuff or distorting their communications with others in order to promote some agenda. I mean, this is sort of par for the course, but I do think we're breaking that. It's sort of breaking down right now because of the pandemic. And I think this is a good time for me to pause because I feel like you've given me a whole lot of material to work with.
That's great.
And I could definitely do a sketch because I'm also willing to pay attention to everyone else and the subtle the field effect that may be happening right now, which includes and transcends all of us, I suppose. But this is where another decision, the decision bifurcation point here. If this is something you would like to continue to do, Seth, with Michael or with Doug, and if Doug or Michael are open to this, how are you guys doing? I just want to check in with everybody. I can draw a picture and I can join you. How are you feeling, Seth? Is that a good idea?
I feel great.
I'm doing fine, John. And if you draw a picture, that'd be fine. Okay. I'm practicing what I love to practice. I'm just trying to be as open as I can.
We'll give each other feedback at the end of our session, which we have another hour. We booked for another hour. So just to be aware of the time frame. So maybe 20 minutes, 10 to 15 minutes with Michael, 10, 15 minutes with Doug, and I'll be back.
Perfect.
In half an hour. Or if you need any help, just let me know. Does that sound good, Doug? Are you with us? Doug is muted. I just want to be sure. Okay, thank you. I'm going to get my crayons. I got my crayons here, so I'll be right back.
Sounds good.
Thank you.
Cool. So, who would like to go first?
Doug, you want to go first?
I'm ready.
Oh, go, buddy. Go.
All right. So let's see. Let me just arrange this thing here and get all my John notes out of the way. Okay. So let's see. So I think maybe we could just start by saying, Doug, what would you like to have happen?
I think for this to be useful at this point, I'm interested in not necessarily just what comes out of this, out of what perhaps I have to say. I like the thread of telepathy, the telepathic communication, and including the four of us here within the larger whole, and the idea of the telepathic reception of the pandemic. So Johnny mentions receiving more from the current time we're in, and that appeals to me. I think that might be a universal theme to a certain extent, that and it comes with slowing down, with listening, with kind of the ancient ugly marriage is given a chance. They're separating from their old relationship and have a chance to reflect in their own layer without getting at each other's throats all the time. So yeah, I think that would be useful for me, at least.
And useful for you. And a chance to reflect, and the ugly marriage separating, and slowing down and listening, and receiving more from the current time. Telepathic reception of the pandemic, and including the four of us. And when including the four of us, what kind of telepathic is that telepathic?
It's a state that is given. It's a state that is provided for us. So it's a telepathic that it's a telepathic that is better understood.
And better understood and provided and given. And when telepathic and better understood, is there anything else about understood?
I think they go hand in hand, or eye to eye, seeing eye to eye. So the understanding and telepathic are one and the same. In order to understand, there's telepathy. In order to be telepathic, there's understanding. So there's a mutual resonance.
And mutual resonance, and eye to eye, and hand in hand. And when mutual resonance, where is mutual resonance?
So right now it's in multiple spaces. Personally, I I assume we tend to think of telepathy as a mental telepathy, receiving others' thoughts. But it's much more than that. It's a flowing, and it can be received in different locations. It goes through to the heart.
And it can be received in different locations, and a flowing. and it goes through to the heart. And when it goes through to the heart, then what happens?
Yeah, the warmth is experienced, the deeper the understanding, the deeper the telepathic experience, the greater the right now. And it's emitted. There's also a permission to feel, a permission to release.
And a permission
And
to
then-
release. And a permission to feel. And when permission, is there anything else about permission?
Say an opening. The word grace is coming to me. I don't know too much about grace from the religious perspective, but yeah, that's what's coming to mind right now.
And the word grace is coming to me. And when the word grace is coming to me, where is grace coming to me from?
So I have two versions coming to me. The one that feels more true right now is it's coming not too far behind me and then pushing forth 8 degrees in front of me is continuing through. So the grace pushes through. Typically, I think of it coming down and out, but that's coming from a singular source. This is a source that can't define its origin. It's the grace just appears. It's there, and it's received.
And the grace just appears and is there and is received, and a source that can't define its origin and pushes through, down and out. And when grace, does grace have a size or a shape?
It's a very wide semicircle, so it comes around, at least from my body space. But when I step out of myself and if I look around this room or the world right now, then it could come from any direction. It could arrive from any direction and take on any shape. Maybe going back to Michael's metaphor, or the bell, there's the rippling effect and the wave interference patterns that form, and the different wavelengths, depending on the wave. There might be a matching at some point, or a certain wave that permits better reception, or even a change or a mutation to happen, such as when maybe a vocalist hits the right note and it's able to shatter glass because it interacts with the actual material form in some way. This invisible sound pattern wavelength is able to disrupt the material world. So these are things that we cannot see, but we can feel.
And these are things we cannot see, but we can feel. And when a vocalist hits the right note, and a rippling effect and wave interference patterns in a very wide semicircle, and grace. And when things we cannot see, but we can feel, and telepathy, is there a relation between things we cannot see, but we can feel, and telepathy?
It produces a cyclic effect, just as clean language in our conversation here and our process here, and what's been said before this and what will likely be said after this. There's always that looping back around, and it's one and the same thing. This telepathy and that ability to feel and still not be seen or felt with certain type of sensory apparatuses.
And our conversation and our process here in clean language.
I think that's a good place to stop for me.
Great. Do you want to draw?
Something that makes sense to you,
I
Deb.
do have crayons as well.
Great. I got it.
If it feels right to you.
Yeah. Thank you, Seth. That was a good round there.
Thank you. It was really cool.
How are you, Seth? You want to keep going?
I'd love to keep going.
Michael, are you ready? You're up next. And I got a picture. We can do it after Michael's session, and I'll take the meta perspective, if I may, while you're doing this, because I wasn't able to pay any attention to what you were doing with Doug. I was too wrapped up in my own drawing. So
Cool.
thanks.
I'd love to make a meta comment before we go on.
Sure.
Which is just, I thought it was very interesting because, the kind of idea of clean language is that it's, it's supposed to be this thing where the person asking questions isn't imposing any of their own view on the other person. But of course, there's nothing like so purely objective that could, but it's like best we have in this scenario sort of technology in a way. And so it's very, in that sense, it tries to be very hands-off. But one really cool thing when we're talking about shared spaces and telepathy and participation was that Michael had nonverbal feedback, and it felt really I don't want to say productive, but like additive in a sense to me. It was a cool extra element, where we're really going across membranes, I suppose.
Excellent, Seth. Excellent. I was hoping I wasn't interfering too much. I was just being responsive to what you were doing, both of you.
Yeah. Yeah, the metaphor I keep using is resonance, and I definitely felt the
Yes,
resonance
that's
there.
a good metaphor. Yes, I agree.
But just as mentioned, I'll be like the meta person here. But if you need me for anything, or you need any kind of support, Seth, you let me know what that is, and I'll focus my attention on that. Okay.
Great,
If there's something
great.
you want me to watch for. Okay.
That sounds great.
So I'm here for you.
I appreciate that. Okay, just give me one moment here. Okay. Are you ready, Michael?
Yes, I am.
Yep. Okay. Well, let me ask you, what would you like to have happen?
To inhabit and manifest whatever this brings to the moment.
And to inhabit and manifest whatever this brings to the moment. And when inhabit and manifest and whatever this brings to the moment, is there anything else about inhabit?
There is a dissolving of a sense of distance, and it's very mental. It's a mental dissolving of distance, and it's dissolving within my own body. It's kind of just from the head, the mental is just dissolving all the way through. There's no forgetting the head. It's just it's almost like a dance around a circle, completing a circuit.
And almost like a dance around a circle, completing a circuit. And dissolving within my own body.
Yes.
And when dissolving and a dance around a circuit, what kind of dance is that dance?
It's dependent on the engagement. In reference to your dialogue with Doug, it was just like a kind of just slow, jazzy, moving back and forth and going, yeah, I get it. Yeah, that feels good. Yeah.
And yeah, that feels good. And slow, jazzy, moving back and forth and dance. And around a circle, completing a circuit. And when a dance around a circle, completing a circuit, is there anything else about circuit?
It feels natural. It feels that's where I need to be.
And it feels that that's where I need to be. And natural. And yeah, and slow, jazzy, moving back and forth. And dance around a circle, completing a circuit. And when dance around a circle, completing a circuit, where is a circle?
At my feet. At my feet.
And at my feet. And a circle. And dissolving a sense of distance from the head. And when dissolving from the head and a circle at my feet, is there a relationship between head and feet?
Yes, there is a relationship that is constant and always there, but my head gets in the fucking way.
My head gets in the fucking way.
But there's always a relationship. It's always a relationship.
And when my head gets in the fucking way, and there's always a relationship, what kind of relationship is that?
It usually feels very I'm going to draw on John's a little bit metaphor. It's very ancient, like a big bang, and it hasn't completed its outward movement. It's conflictual, it's tense, it's erotic.
And it's erotic and conflictual, and it's tense and very ancient, like a big bang and relationship. And when it's conflictual, it's tense, it's erotic, what does relationship want to have happen?
You know, I have to say, it's one of those moments that you have to allow, I don't know.
And it's one of those moments that you have to allow, I don't know. And when you have to allow, I don't know, what sort of allow is that allow?
Exhale.
Exhale.
You breathe out. You're not holding in. You're not stressing.
And you're not holding in, and you're not stressing. And exhale. And to inhabit and manifest whatever this brings to the moment. And when exhale and breathe out, what happens to inhabit and manifest?
They're in relationship.
And they're in relationship.
There's no barrier between them. Whatever seemingly barriers they are, they're just how do I put this? Working forms, creative forms of the relationship.
And working forms of the relationship. And no barrier. And inhabit and manifest. And when working forms the relationship, where are working forms?
They feel, this is odd because the feeling begins in the gut and goes to the head. It begins in the gut or my feet, and it's like a return cycle to the head. And so this is interesting because it goes with the title. The movement now comes from the bottom, and there's a momentum to go up.
And a momentum to go up. And working forms. And when working forms and momentum to go up, then what happens? Oh. And what just happened?
Dance.
Dance. And dance. In relationship, in circuit, in feeling, return cycle to the head, and no forgetting the head, and around a circle, completing a circuit. And with all of this, what does dance want to have happen?
Freedom. Free movement. Movement that is free. Flying like a bird. Or in my totem, swimming free like a dolphin. That's my totem, dolphin.
And that's my totem, dolphin. Free movement.
Playful movement.
Playful movement. And when playful movement, like a dolphin, and inhabit and manifest whatever this brings to the moment, where is dolphin?
Swimming to Alpha Centauri.
Swimming to Alpha Centauri. And when swimming to Alpha Centauri and dance, where is Alpha Centauri?
In my heart.
In my heart.
No distance. No distance.
No distance. No distance. Is this a good time?
I appreciate
too?
that. You attuned to that very well. I think that's enough. Thank you.
Sure.
And so if you want to do a sketch or a drawing or a dance, something that makes sense to you, Michael.
When it comes to me, I'm going to do a dance. That's what I'm going to do.
Nice.
So how you doing, Seth? How you doing?
Great.
Okay, Doug? Doug, did you finish your picture? Or not? Are you still working on it? You're still working on it? Okay, I have mine finished. Do you want me to?
It's in
Your
full
work-
color. I'm finished.
Okay, well then we can do, should we do it in order? So I'll show you my picture. Then Doug, you can do your picture. And maybe Michael will be ready to do his dance or his summatization or whatever. And then I think we could, since we have about, trying to manage the time, we have 35 minutes. So Seth, it would be great if I want to give you plenty of time to, go over what you learned today, what you may have learned today, because I think you did a
Sure.
splendid job. And so I'm really so pleased that you're sharing this co-modeling exercise with me. And you and I are rehearsing this live. So
Sure.
you and I can give each other feedback on how we want to shape this in the future. And so we're in the middle of it. I don't think but I think it's very interesting how we go in and out of trance states and how we go from conceptual to perceptual and back again. So I think that's something for all of us to be mindful of, because I think this contributes to our capacity to make feedback loops between these different dimensions. And that's what my drawing is sort of about too. If I could, I don't know if you guys can see this, can you?
Yeah.
Yes.
This is a weird person. It's sort of me and it's not me at the same time. It's sort of male and it's kind of female at the same time. It's sort of gender fluid. I think this is the cityscape, something in the background that's very dark, and it's connected to the back of the their neck or the back of their head, sort of like right out of the Matrix, how those, how Neo he finds out he has like a tube in the back of his neck that the archons have planted. I think that's okay. Then there's that the bird up above, a telepathic bird, is sending me a jolt of light, and it circulates, and it goes to the left side, especially around the nipple. And I have a female breast here, so because it feels very female, and it goes down into the root, and it goes up the left side, or I don't know which is left or which is right. I'm a little confused, but it's it's a male. It feels like a male anatomy, and the root center feels, I don't know. I guess it's sort of below the sex center, so it's a little bit of a little. It's not clearly, well, the root is very much earth It's very, very grounded. It's the bottom of the torso. And over here, I got a lot of, this is pretty dark over here. I get a swastika here. I get maybe emerging fascist revival happening right now. And I get lots of light coming in waves on this side of the body. And I get this, like the veins and the arteries in her, they come out of her flesh, they pop out of her skin and they start wrapping around her arm and around her body. It's kind of like the veins and the arteries under the skin pop out and become branches of trees. And that starts to grow in the ground. So it's pretty, there's a lot more going on. There's also the curve of the earth down there. So I hope some of that made sense to you.
Cool.
You got a little more detailed there at the end.
Yeah, and I guess the
or added a lot of elements that were not in your.
And I want to explore relational processes that make other relational processes possible. I guess that's my desired outcome. So I don't feel like I have my desired outcome yet, but I'm moving very quickly in that direction, just simply because of the participation that's happening here. I mean, we are right now, through our presence and the actions that we're taking, our speech actions and our drawing and dancing, whatever, we are creating relational processes. This is a relational process which makes other relational processes possible. So in a way, I'm sort of recognizing that I'm getting my desired outcome, or I'm very close to getting it right now. So I guess what I'm most attracted to right now is the swastika, which is, I know the Nazis stole it. It really wasn't, it's an old Hindu symbol. And the bursting of the boundary of her body becoming, the veins and arteries becoming roots and branches. Sort of something very fractal in that to me.
Cool. Very cool. Would you like to go next, Doug?
You ready, Doug?
Sure. Yeah, thank you, John. That was very nice. Mine turned out to be a bit messy. There are. It's more of a capturing of the tail end of what we worked on. So the full extent of the process isn't there, but this is the field. So each person or thing, there's a bird and a tree, are all emitting this. I mentioned the grace, receiving the grace, and then into some sort of telepathic understanding, or understanding of telepathy, whatever it might be. So we each emit these wave fields. So each one of these are emitting their various colors, and they intermingle. It ended up being quite messy. I'd say at some point in there's some wavelengths that resonate with each other. There might be a lot of noise in there, a lot of visual mess. But if there's a mutual understanding, then it resonates between each other. That's what came through in my drawing. Yeah, I tried to. It's not just humans as well. Or this is the bigger adult. This is perhaps a child, or maybe the four of us here Johnny mentioned, the golden happened to be the yellow color that I use. And there's the tree, the bird, so sort of communication.
Wow.
Doug, unfortunately, oh, you unfroze. Good. Your picture got frozen. Could you show it up? Could you hold it up again so we heard you? I heard you fine, but I couldn't see the picture because only a third of it was shown. Now you're unfrozen. So can you show that to us again? Oh, move it over just a little.
Okay. So the audio is working okay?
Yeah, the audio worked fine. We heard you, but we couldn't see the picture very clearly.
But the picture is a talisman to freeze the camera,
Gotcha.
it looks like, because now it's frozen again.
It froze again, yeah. That's cool. But we can see more of it. We can see a lot more of it, though. Okay, great. That's very cool. Thank
Just
you,
a little
Doug.
bit better now.
And Doug, well, just one question. What are you most attracted to in your drawing?
So not necessarily the field, but the people and the objects within the field. So I'm a nature lover, so I felt the need to incorporate a tree and a bird. But what I couldn't add into the picture was anything and everything all around us. So it's all around us. Not just this telepathic communication, but this, I guess it's life in general, where we're intermingled with so much going on that we do have to tune out quite a bit. Even in this conversation, we have to tune out each other while we make our drawing. So I missed what was said just a minute ago, but I know it's out there. So I picked up on it somewhere along the way.
Thank you, Doug. And we have the archive, so we can watch this. So all the things that we missed, we could
That's
pick
true.
up on. Thank you.
And
Yeah.
thank you again, Seth. I mentioned in the forum, I don't know if you had a chance to sign in or log into the forum, but you have this great presence about you that I really appreciate. So
Oh, thank
Feeling
you
it.
very much.
feeling it here is very nice. So
I appreciate that
hope to meet you
feedback.
in person one day.
Yeah, same. Where are you right now?
This is Kentucky,
Oh, cool.
inside a house.
Nice. I don't want to get too tangential, but I'm watching a documentary series right now about a paranormal investigation team in Kentucky. That's all.
So Doug isn't the only psychic from Kentucky. I think you're in good company there.
Yeah.
Yeah, look, you have quite a few dowsers too. I think Kentucky's famous for the excellent dowsers.
Really?
Yeah. Isn't that true, Doug? It's like part of the culture.
It's common. I ran in. I think I mentioned that before. There's a leak at my grandmother's farm, and we tried to fix it, but instead of hiring a professional fixer-upper, we hired a dowser, and they found the leak pretty quickly.
That's amazing.
So, Michael, are you ready to dance? Are you going to dance for us?
Well, I'm gonna, cause it's gonna be a little verbal and
Okay.
dance, and I'm gonna do it from here because I have to keep the headphones on because of my roommates. Anyway, so this is from the top up, a little lead in. This is being frozen. Dissolving. Think of an ice cube just being with the ice falling off, melting away. I'm only going to simulate, but the clothes, taking off the clothes is taking off the concepts of distance. And being in space without needing a sense of distance, just here, now. And it's all the way down, and then it comes back in, come back up, and now there's flowing, moving, and space are one. And there's no mental fixation of difference. And I emphasize no mental fixation of difference. It does not mean there's not difference.
Awesome.
And then you just go,
Very nice.
I actually, when I take a shower, I do it as an energetic process of cleaning off the energy, not just my body. And at the end, when I shut off the water, I stand there for 2 to 3 minutes and feel the drip and the and the sense of the dissolving of any hardened energy or thoughts or feelings. And I also do a practice of, it's part of tapping, where I wash, I scrape the water off my head, down my neck, around my ears. And it's like I'm energetically cleaning my conceptual support system, not eliminating, but cleaning it so I'm fresh and clean.
Cool.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you very much. That was beautiful. Thank you all. And Seth, a development of the miraculous. And when a development of the miraculous, is there anything else about miraculous?
I don't know. I guess I've had the experience a lot lately, especially when I'm meditating, that I come out of it and I'll think to myself, or if someone else asks me to explain my experience, I hear myself verbalizing this. I'm like, I just say, this is just a miracle. And they're like, what do you mean? I'm like, I don't know, just this. What else can I say about this? But I would like to say more about it, but I don't know what to say about it.
And when you would like to say something about it, but you don't know what to say about it?
Yeah.
What would you like to have happen when you would like to say something about it?
Well, I think, I suspect wanting to say something about it is part of just like a reflex of me wanting to kind of like, stick my climbing pick into it and just hang on so it stops leaving me. But I think what I probably really want is just understanding.
And understanding, and that reflex, and that climbing pick, and understanding. And when understanding, whereabouts understanding?
Well, I want it to be everywhere because I believe that to be so. And it seems tantalizing. And yet, I seem to keep finding little or large places where it isn't.
And you want it to be everywhere. And I believe it could be so. And I want it to be everywhere, and I believe it could be so. And when I believe it could be so, is there anything else about I believe when it could be so?
Well, I'm not sure how to articulate this. It's like I feel like I'm in a dialogue with what is much greater all the time, and I commonly am missing the cues, but I know they're there. And then I'll feel bad about it. I'm like, sorry, I'm trying to listen the best of my ability, but I'm just, sorry about that one. Didn't catch it. It's very strange.
And it's like I'm in dialogue with something much greater, and I'm missing the cues that I know that are there. And it's like I'm in a dialogue.
Mm-hmm.
And I believe it could be everywhere, and I want it to be everywhere. And climbing a pick, and the pick, a climbing pick into it, a reflex. And with all of that, what happens to miraculous?
Well, it's got like 7 answers at the same time. 1, it's bubbling. 2, this whole scenario about me climbing and missing cues is miraculous. Doesn't make it any less frustrating. And 3, I want to say something that sounds dumb, like changelessness, but it's really a feeling that's a shitty word for, but just like
It's like,
I guess
is
so.
there anything else about?
Oh man, it's a tough question. Can't look away.
Can't look away. And changeless. And 2, missing cues. And 1, bubbling. And 7 answers. Is there anything else about 7 answers when miraculous?
Uh, 7 planets.
Oh,
As answers, that's fascinating.
it's what? I'm sorry.
It's fascinating. I never thought about the planets as answers.
Me neither. That's really cool. Great. Thank you.
Sure.
We have about 10 minutes of our scheduled 2 hours. So I would love it if anyone wants to, if this is a good time to pause, maybe you could draw, and you're welcome to join us on the forum, Seth. You could post your drawing if anyone wants to post their drawing. We have an ongoing conversation on the forum about the event today.
Cool.
So in between this event and maybe the next one we might plan, we could look at our drawings and
Yeah.
organize around that. So
Yeah, if you want to send me the information for the form, I would love to
Could
get
we-
on it.
Could we either do that, Doug? You know how to do that better than me. If you could send, all he has to do to register is just sign up, right? Just have to, I don't know how to do it.
Yeah, there's nothing but I think an email needed to sign up. So just like
Right.
any other website or form that requires some basic information. But I would, yeah, I'd love to see you on the forum at some point, Seth. It's not a requirement though, but it's just a supplemental feedback that we give to each other in between meetings like this, I think.
That sounds great.
I also want to quickly state that I do need to go. Didn't want to interrupt the conversation, but I've greatly appreciated the conversation. I like how the group dynamic worked and has worked in the past. And for this session, it was very, very helpful for where I'm at this time. Seemed that we all came together and reached a similar place. And I think our feedback off of each other. Yeah, I feel like I know you guys a lot better now.
Thank you.
Thank you.
It was
Thank you,
wonderful to
Doug.
have you here, Doug. Yeah.
Yeah, thank you.
Thank you, Doug. Have a fabulous weekend. And
You all as well. Take care.
You too.
so, so knowing what you know now, what difference does knowing that make? That's a question I could ask.
Mm.
There may be others, but I know we got to wrap it up pretty soon. And I just want to sort of find some sort of summary, that a little coda to this quartet. Doug has already absented himself because his presence, though, is still here, resonating with us in our subtle field. So I'm just leaving it open closure. You know, let's have open closure.
Cool.
Something coming up for you?
Yeah, as usual, I mean, it's a consistent theme every time I join this. I've grown in the sense of the practice of being open that I treasure so much. I've grown in knowing people, as John and Seth, but John, you and I have been doing this for a long time. The difference it makes and the kind of things it's an exercise for me of being in a safe enough environment, even though that it's online. It would be interesting if it was in person. You know, I'm just saying that because I know there might be some more oomph to it, maybe. As far as just being safe enough to express what is coming up for me in the moment that we're offering feedback back and forth. It's a very good training for me of even when I leave here, how I approach interacting with people and receiving their feedback and better respond to it, no matter what kind of feedback they're giving me. It could be ill, you know, it could be anger, but this gives me good training. Oh, I can receive it, but I can do this differently with it. If right now, one of the things I've been having to work with, believe it or not, is actually how to receive the kindness of others, because I've had to work with that's been a shadow I haven't paid attention. I've been for a long time just dealing with how to work with people that they get so defensive in the feedback loop.
Hmm.
So thank you very much.
Mm-hmm.
Thank you, as always, Michael. And
Yeah.
I'm going to just make a quick note here that you asked 13 questions. I didn't get them all, Seth. You asked more than that. But there was...
Oh, of Mike?
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
but I can go over that with you at another time.
Cool.
And I can also get the benefit of watching the video when it comes out, because I wasn't able to pay attention because I was into my own drawing.
Sure.
That would be a lot of fun for both of us, I think, because I'm very proud of you.
Oh, thank
You're doing
you.
a fantastic job. Don't you think so, Michael? He's
Oh,
good, right?
yeah. He's as good as you, but he has that different vibe going on. He's as good as you.
Absolutely, which makes me extremely proud, because
Oh,
this is why Seth and I devoted so many weekends over a couple of years going into the real cracks and crevices of our psyches.
And you can tell the work that you two have been put in just by the way Seth expresses himself in this. I'm just honoring he has that different vibe that goes with it.
very cool.
That's right. That's right. And it gives me as a co-modeler, it's just very satisfying for me, because I can let go of more of the process than I usually am able to do. If I'm the only, I'm the center of I'm the only modeler here, I have to be on top of all of it. And it's very interesting. I'd be very curious about your response, Seth, doing this in person and doing it online. It's a very different environment. And as you say, Michael, if we were in the same room together, it would be a very different experience, because we have an ambient sound that we would both share.
Yeah.
What the feeling is and where the floor is. Here we are in these virtual spaces, and we're having earphones, or we have trouble with the noise and the signal get confused, which has more to do with the technology than with any of us. But it affects the field. So I'm very curious, Doug. Excuse me, future dialogues about the virtual, the subtle, the etheric, and what this author that I quoted earlier today, who's making a very grand claim that the practice of technological singularity is hooking a lot of people into a subhuman sort of version of the subtle, and sort of mimicking the subtle and trying to replace it, and quite inadequately, I think. If you've had any experience these inner realms, you know that a lot of people are just have a very impoverished experience if they think the virtual is going to improve.
Along those lines, John, I just want to say the thing is that what we're doing though has a different intention, and it's a clear intention of how to use the technology without getting hooked in, because maybe I'm being too Marshall McLuhan. I consider this an extension of my nervous system, so I have to center myself and not overextend. I think that's what he's pointing to. We have a tendency to overextend our own nervous system, and this gives me more practice of, like you're saying, signal to noise. But when I'm in somebody else's present, body to body, there's a signal to noise I have to listen to, that both of us have shared when we're in the presence of people dealing with feedback.
I love that, and I would love to hear how Seth responds to that, because I think there's a great tension that we've discussed over and over again. Marshall McLuhan and other communicators, communication theorists, and this whole signal noise ratio, and magic and mythical and the mental are in, unfortunately, conflict rather than harmony most of the time. And that's why I think this pandemic is bringing our collective attention to this abyss. If we don't get this, if we aren't able to harmonize these different levels of consciousness, we're in tremendous peril. So that's why I'm motivated to get together with very competent persons like yourselves, who have rich inner resources, and we can share them in a public forum like this. I think it's pretty rare. I don't see much of this going on. I would like it to be a trend where people would have the skills to work with their interiors in a public space. That's why I want to get out of the therapy world and out of the coaching world, which is basically talking about personal excellence and trying to do that into something that's much more of a collective, shared, collaborative, open space, more where the private and the public can be organized differently. So
Well,
that's my,
and what it feels like to me is just getting away from the industrial military complex that affects how we can deepen, even in public, how we communicate, which doesn't mean, I just want to be clear, doesn't mean you can't have robust tug of war back and forth, but there's the bottom of it is there's a friendliness at the same time. It's not just vomiting against each other.
Yep. Yeah.
how about you, Seth? Is there something
Yeah,
wanna-
well, I think it's interesting to me because I don't have that much experience with video chat stuff, and it always kind of gives me some trepidation. Is I feel pretty awkward, but I feel like I'm adapting slowly, and I noticed that doing clean language on this platform does feel a little bit more like a video game, predictably. So I guess there is a sense of containment. And one thing I noticed, and I could be wrong about this because I've only done this a couple times now, but when doing practices like this in person, seem to be a little bit more open to like synchronicities arising in parts of the environment just coming in, because you're talking and then a thing appears behind you if you're in a public space, and oh my God, it's the answer to what I just said in my head, and it can get really weird, which certainly is happening here too, but in a different way, I think.
That's very helpful. And I think we're very drawn to the synchronistic and those overlaps between that acausal relationship, as Jung said. And so I really welcome this opportunity to learn about ourselves at a deeper level or a higher level, whichever your metaphor is. And I hope we can continue this. So maybe this could be a ritual space where we could bring our trials and tribulations and get some feedback from one another at this different level that, it's not, I think, widely distributed in our culture yet.
No.
There's definitely, you see this in the arts and dance and music and poetry. People are working with the symbolic, but they're not working with it in quite this way. And I think this is this is my spiel. I think it's a new art form that we're actually creating together.
I agree. I agree. And you're right. It is rare, but like Integral Life has podcasts like this, not with clean language, but they're working with principles of how to respect each other and feedback, because and accept the container of what this is, at the same time being and so you're right, it's rare, but unfortunately I've been able to access about 3 similar, and it is an art form, Don. I totally agree. And Seth, I like what you pointed out, like when you're in the presence of somebody, how that, how that shows up, and how that does have a different effect when you're in the same physical space than, like, as an example, when Doug had it on and his kids were playing, that noise, if I was in that space, it would feel different than coming across this medium. There was a crackling, I had to go, shit, and just, because it had to me, more of an irritation than if I was in the same room.
Sure.
Is that kind of what you were pointing to? I don't know.
Yeah, that makes sense too. I wasn't thinking in those terms as much, but yeah, definitely. Even Doug's lagging connection came across. It was like an extra element that you wouldn't get per se in person.
Yeah, right. Thank you.
And yet also the laughter of the children sort of fits in somehow. Fits into the tapestry, because we're surrounded by perfect imperfections,
Nice phrase. I like that.
And there's something else I just wanted to share is at the beginning of our session today, I didn't know exactly where it was going to go, which is good. And at the same time, I did want it to go somewhere.
Right.
So I do my best to give a frame, not in I don't want to insist on anything, but I'm welcome to other people's frames. But I think you have to have a frame initially, so you can reframe it, deframe it, unframe it, do something else. But you have to start with something. So that's where I feel like I have a little more responsibility to do that than not. But I'm so glad though that it didn't get constrained by my particular frame, and it went in different directions that I could not have anticipated. And that's what I love about this process, is that it surprises me. And so I know when I'm asking a clean question and I'm getting a response that I could predict, I haven't asked a very good question.
Yeah.
So when I'm getting a surprise, when I'm surprised by what someone says, I say, yes, this is why I like to do this, because people surprise me and take me by surprise. And it destabilizes me a little bit, but I also enjoy what happens when we come back together and we can go to a meta perspective and consolidate our our friendships and our allegiances. And I think we get stronger, more resilient, and we can share that strength and resilience with other groups that we're working with. And that's my hope, is that we can take this out into the mean streets of Manhattan or Brooklyn, or where I think you're in. The streets aren't so mean where you live, Michael. I think.
No, they're not. They're not so mean. Part of the reason is I don't live in LA, and LA and New York are congested cities. I live on the outskirts, so yeah, your observation is right. One thing I want to say, John, and I'm just bookmarking that I agree, is that your setup of the frame is the way you set it up with the added intention. It's flexible. Is what I really resonate with, because I will get allergic to anybody that sets a solid frame.
Me too. It's permeable. It has a permeability to it.
That's one of my favorite, ways of thinking about it. And also I wanted to ask you, so what happened? Did you get your desired outcome?
I did. My desired outcome, which I think we started to establish at the beginning, I have many desired outcomes, but I want to explore relational processes that make other relational processes possible. And so it's sort of like relationships about relationships. It's a kind of a recursive patterning.
Yeah, right.
I want to distribute widely among other groups.
Right.
And so I hope that the processes that we develop relationally today, Seth can go out, Michael can go out, Doug can go out, and they can create other relational processes in other groups with the family, whatever. And this is extremely important as we're in this pandemic where most of us are so isolated from one another. And I think if we don't use this energy, it often turns morbid. People start turning inward and getting really weird and paranoid and thinking about disease and death and dying. And that's not unreasonable considering the circumstances. It is a serious threat, but I also think we need to really anchor our sense of resilience and anchors of, as we did last time with metaphors for healing, and use our imaginations in holistic ways. So, which we did today. I was very pleased to say.
Yeah, and I just want to say, you speaking of the isolation and pandemic, this last week, and I've always come from a holistic, or tried to come for a long time, a holistic, is when I do go out, I'm used to going out at 6 o'clock in the morning, but I've been contracted. But when I do go out, these experiences that we've had the last 2 weeks help me deal with and work with people when I'm out amongst, because like you, John, I think all of us, and I think to a general, all human beings, whether they recognize it or not, they're naturally empathetic and telepathic, naturally. It just comes with being human. But how this forum helps me talk to people that resonate with my feeling of that, and give me thoughts and ideas about how to work with it. So again, I'm very much gratitude.
Thank you so much. Seth, any last words? I've talked myself out. I've said everything, I think.
Me too. Your turn, Seth. Your turn, Seth.
I don't know. I mean, I learned some kind of cool and strange things about my own inner processes today, which I need to go do a drawing to really figure out what's going on there, which is exciting. But I also can just say, like, almost every time that I do a session like this, or that we hang out, John, and do some work, I leave at the end feeling everything is a lot more radiant and luminous and psychoactive, I guess, or just permeable, and it feels very nice. And that's the way I feel right now.
Beautiful, Seth. Beautiful.
Blessings to all of you. And may the merit of our learnings today be all sentient beings.
Okay. Take care, everybody.
The President of the United States.
Be well, be safe. Take care. Bye-bye.
See you guys soon.